Hey, happy Friday.
My video looks really weird.
Yeah, what's going on with
Find a
that?
different place.
Got like a cool filter on it,
I'm not trying to.
like a Game Boy camera.
I can't find the camera for the other computer, so now I have to use this one, but it's not working. What? I don't know where it is. Here, can I try to sit here?
I'm pretty sure you have it.
Maybe. This is better, right?
Is the camera better? Yeah, it looks a little better. Your background's still a little interesting. Your face is showing up, so that's awesome.
Great.
You look great.
Indeed. All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Hey. Yeah, let's see.
Yep. I'm not sure why this is doing this, but it is, so
I think that looks
here I
better.
am.
Yeah, that looks better.
It's good enough.
Oh, I was just talking to. Yeah, no, that's fine. Anything going on? We got. How's your week been? What have you guys been up to?
This is a big week for us for performances for the kids. So Cess is on her way right now to she's the Trunchbull in Matilda.
Oh, right.
And so they had their opening night last night and she's off to her matinee performance. So as soon as this is completed, we're gonna go do that.
Oh, what a lovely day.
So yeah.
So when's the last show?
Tonight. There's 2 performances tonight and then we're done. So hello.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I made it.
Yes. You've been on quite the tour lately. I picked up, what was it, the Good Game podcast recently?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I filmed it in March, but it did just come out. Yeah.
Nice.
That is so funny. Yeah. Hey, Rachel, I'm Maryanne.
Hi,
It's
nice to meet you.
you.
You too. Yes, you caught me. I just got home from Games for Change yesterday, so you guys are my first talk back.
Oh, we want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
I haven't been to that one yet. It is everywhere on LinkedIn.
You should go. It's really fun. Especially for educators. There's like a big educator contingency that goes there.
Yeah, I see people are changing their name. They've got people changing their names on LinkedIn to include Games for Change, which is like quite the branding flex. Like
totally right.
Put it in your actual name. That's a good one.
That's funny.
I'm on my way to Serious Games.
Oh, Serious Play.
Or Serious Play, yes.
Yes, I'm not going this year because it's further than usual. It used to be in Rochester, which is like driving distance for me, but not this
Rochester. Year. We'll be there in October for Nasaga. They're doing it there at the Strong Museum of Play.
Strong Museum is awesome. My Zeitgeist books are in the Strong Museum of Play, which is my flex.
That's very cool.
That's a big, that's a big like. You're pumping those out every time. I'm just like, there's another one. Like,
yeah. Well, it's a whole. I mean, I'm just the series editor, so I don't. I mean, I read them all, but I'm not the one pushing all of them. But yeah, it's really cool. I think the latest one was not Taylor Swift. It was D&D. The latest one was D&D. I should move it to that for this talk. I should instead of Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is. Speak to your crowd. That's our people.
That's it. It's a really good one. It's funny. I just bought a bunch. My oldest really wants to sell them at like the nerd fair in my town. And I don't usually do that because I was like, that's my whole Saturday, but we're going to do it and it's going to be a blast. And I had to order them all. And I have the advantage of being able to order them at cost, but the D&D one is like 33% more expensive than any of the other ones because it's bigger. There's like more content.
Your eldest wants to sell your books at the
Zeitgeist books. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like, let's do a booth. And I was like, oh man, that feels like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying goodbye to my youngest who is about to go get ready to be the Trunchbull in Matilda. So excuse me for 1 second while I send her on her way.
Yes. Very cool. So where are you, Garrett? Where do you live?
I am in Kent, Ohio, so about 45 minutes outside Cleveland. But I'm originally from northern Michigan, so I'm kind of marooned down here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so are you going to Serious Play or no?
Not Serious Play me this year. I was just at Make Play Learn, which was a hoot, and we did Origins before that.
Okay. So you've been traveling
3 in a row. So I'm kind of done. And then I'm doing the digital Leon Christo. I don't know if you know him, or Christo Leon does the 10th annual International Colloquium on Roleplay Game Studies, and that's a digital conference out of NJIT. And so that's next week, unfortunately at the same time as Gen Con.
Which would be, and that's in the middle of America. Where's Gen Con?
I think it's in
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I'm in New Hampshire. So
all right. Okay. So you can get to Serious Play easier.
Well, it's down in North Carolina this year. So yeah. Usually I would be able to.
Yeah. Well, I heard it is coming back to Rochester next year. So I was like, okay,
oh, good.
That'd be wonderful. That's about 4 hours. That's perfectly within striking distance for me. So.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I need to hit that one next year. Yeah. And so where are you based out of, Rachel? Where are you beaming in from today?
Ottawa.
Okay.
Canada. Yeah.
Nice. I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie. So
very
familiar with the provinces.
Yes. I like it.
Well,
we are from Quebec. My people are from Quebec. 2 generations removed. They all came down in the 1920s.
Okay.
So we're getting ready to come back.
You could get your citizenship now, like they opened it up, right?
We're well aware.
Okay.
well aware. We have teenage sons, so we're well aware.
Very good. Very good.
But,
Yeah, just in time to miss the Trump passport, you know?
Yeah.
Well, if you got a knock at your door in the middle of the night, it might be all of the Cullinans.
I'll open the door.
Home to roost. Yeah. My Bergeron side. It's my Seal Bergeron side.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, this is just delightful. I'm seeing it's a couple minutes after noon.
Yeah.
We have people trickling in. I see we've got about a dozen people now watching live. Usually it it ticks up for a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Guys, welcome to Fellowship Friday. This is our little live talk show we've been doing now for a couple months, and it's kind of taken off. And as far as I know, we are the only place doing regular live talk about applied tabletop role-playing games, specifically for teaching and learning, which is what we're all about in Tabletop EDU. We're a nonprofit, and we bring on amazing people like Dr. Rachel Kowert, who's doing just incredible work in related spaces to things we're interested in. And so we invited Rachel on to talk about the DLC leadership program. And so Maryanne's gonna lead the interview, and I'm gonna kind of be lurking. But guys, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat, and we're gonna try to leave time at the end of the interview. We'll definitely leave a little time to hopefully get to some of your questions. So thanks again for joining us, and thank you, Rachel and Maryanne, for having this conversation.
Of course, excited.
Great. Well, thanks, Garrett. So I'm Maryanne Cullinan. I am the co-director of Tabletop EDU and a middle school teacher and mother of 4 teenagers. As you just saw, as I sent one off, and I'm here with Rachel, Dr. Kowert, who seems to be doing everything everywhere all at once. It's amazing. You have so much good stuff going on. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah,
really
thank you.
Awesome.
I mean, through the power of technology, I am everywhere somehow.
Right? I was really excited to hear about you've worked with the UN and Congress and Zeitgeist, and you got a Vanguard Award from Games for Change. What's that?
It's essentially, it's funny. When I was leaving with it, it's kind of an obelisk and kind of sharp. And so it got caught in the airport security, and they were like, "What is that?" And I was like, "I think it's a Lifetime Achievement Award." And they were like, "I'm really confused." It's an award that Games for Change gives out to someone who's been, forging a path forward. So I was pretty excited to get that.
Well, that's incredible. I know that sort of the new thing that you've been working on is this DLC leadership program. And I was looking into it a little bit today, and it's very near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited to hear about it. If I can make this about me for a second.
Yes.
So I was really involved with a game called Ingress, which was the precursor to Pokemon Go. And so found myself about 10 years ago in charge of a Slack of 700 people that I had to get to Brooklyn, and learned a lot of skills really fast, sort of trial by fire that I can't put on my resume. But truly, when I was organizing the game-based education therapy mini conference at Origins, I was like, this is nothing compared to that. And I saw when I was looking into this, I'm like, I've already signed up. I can't wait to do it. It seems amazing. Tell me about it. This is so great.
Yes, thank you. I mean, the DLC Leadership Program is the first modular, free-to-take asynchronous program for what we call digital leaders. So this is community managers, moderators, dungeon masters, everyone in between. And it really grew out of this necessity of the fact that there is no standardized formal training for people who lead digital communities. And that includes informal leaders like you in charge of your Ingress group, but also heads of community at large gaming studios. Sometimes it's just someone who's really active in the community and they have a degree in something totally unrelated, and they end up leading a community of 500,000 people. And then if someone shows up, angrily and you need de-escalation, or in crisis and you need, to give resources, they don't have the training or information to do that. So the program was created to create a foundational level of knowledge so everyone has the basic skills to do their job to the best of their ability, but also to professionalize this space. Like you said, you couldn't put it on your resume. There is a certificate at the end that you can put on your resume to show that you have formally trained in these skills. And we ran the first pilot. We just finished. The results are pretty incredible. 98% said they'd recommend it to other people. 85% said it directly changed how they lead even before they finished the program. So we're really excited to grow it and build it and keep it free for digital leaders to take, thanks to the generous funding of our supporters.
Wow, that's really incredible. And what kinds of things do you think are important skills? Like what kinds of stuff's in here?
Thank you for asking. There's a lot of skills that should be in there. It was a pilot. So we started with what we call 3 foundational courses, which are courses that everyone has to take, and 6 master classes, which are essentially electives. And the idea is to grow it to 12 foundational courses and then as many master classes as we can make. So in the pilot, it was de-escalation, self-care, and operational security, how to keep yourself safe were the foundational. And the electives were created by people in the field and people from the industry sharing their areas of expertise. So how to create community guidelines, how to protect online harm from bleeding into offline harm, how to create player-facing resources, how to create vibes. How do you set the vibes and the culture of your space? And now we're starting to move forward with our second round of content production, bringing in some new content partners, which I can't announce yet, but we'll announce soon, that are sharing their expertise and kind of lending it all to the greater good and knowledge of the community layer of games.
That's really great. That sounds like a lot of wonderful resources for people. What are you ultimately hoping people will get out of it? Like what will they walk away from in an ideal world?
In an ideal world, they'll walk away better able to sustain themselves in this work. We know that community people who work in community of games have high levels of burnout.
Right, the burnout is real.
It's real, and it's very pronounced specifically in that area of work. So more sustained, more prepared to do the work, and trained, and they feel competent and capable. And also a community of practice, so more supported and engaged. So 50% of the DLC is the training, but the other 50% is the community of practice. So a lot of digital leaders I feel like I'm doing this alone. Studios don't necessarily talk to other studios. Things are largely siloed. Or people leading ingress groups, maybe you don't know anyone else who leads communities, right? So with every group, we bring them in as a cohort. They start at a certain time together and they stay together in the Discord. And so they have a community. Hey, this weird thing is happening. Oh, I remember this, or I can share my institutional knowledge with you. So sustained, prepared, and, in the community.
That community of practice model is what's considered to be best practice in education as well.
Oh,
right. Because teachers are often, similarly, they are independent community leaders.
Yes.
Right. If each classroom is sort of a siloed community. And so this idea of communities of practice is really well established in the literature, in education, as being like the best possible way to do it. So that's really exciting to hear.
And I mean, they are teachers, right?
For sure.
They're setting the tone, they're setting the rules, they're setting the levels of discipline, for lack of a better term. So yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'd love to see more teachers think of themselves as community leaders as well. Right.
For sure. Absolutely. And the other thing I think worth mentioning here is not only it's about leading a community because you want to and you're passionate about it, but from a studio perspective, we've gotten a lot of studios on board as partners. We have Riot Games and Roblox, and Twitch has come on as a partner. So Sony Interactive Entertainment came on as a partner, because community leaders are infrastructure for trust and safety. They are essentially the frontline workers of your communities. And so any way we can better support them and prepare them is going to have a lot of benefits beyond just happier, better, healthier, more resilient communities, which we all want, but also lower levels of disruption, lower levels of churn, greater retention, that sort of stuff.
Right. So in the chat, they're asking that they heard it's free. And how does that work?
How does that work? It is free to take. There's a few things around the structure of this program that were really important to me and Dr. Kelly Dunlap, who co-developed this program with me, which is that the burden should not be on the leader themselves. It should be asynchronous, it should be freely accessible, and it should be modular, and all 3 are true. Shine a Light Gaming is our founding partner. They generously funded our pilot program, which gave our efficacy measures and our proof of that this does work, and actually it works even way better than we expected it to do. They have now funded an additional year to run another 2 cohorts through. And so this is the time when we're reaching out now to studio partners to make sure that it stays sustainable so we can continue to upskill the industry and their workers within their individual studios over time. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, we have at least 1 more year of runway to keep the program going.
Oh, that's really great. That's good to hear. So get your applications in, gang.
Get it in. It is capped. Like we can only run so many at a time,
Right.
which is so we can have an effective community of practice. Like you can't let everybody in all at once. So yeah, definitely sign up.
Absolutely. Well, that's really, really cool. Which of these skill sets so what do you think sort of transfers over for people if they're running communities that are in person?
Such a good question. Okay, so I mentioned there's the foundational classes and the master classes. One of the master classes that I really want to do for next year, maybe we should talk. I'm looking for an expert to come on, is how does this transfer into physical spaces? Because we know, for instance, community codes of conduct, also important, but that's going to be slightly different when you're in an in-person situation. Also, like bystander intervention is a really good example because in traditional physical bystander intervention, usually the first thing that you do is you physically intervene, right, and confront the person. Whereas in digital spaces, all the research points to not doing that and not directly confronting the person in the digital space because it gets wildly out of control, as probably many people have witnessed. Usually it's better to distract and then DM and do it more of a one-to-one than in a public space. So we definitely need to explore that. And we would love to create a masterclass around that just so people can understand, because we know ingress online, in person, Pokemon communities online, big conventions in
Right.
person. Look, there's definitely a crossover.
Yeah, and I think that there is a lot of expertise in that sort of group dynamic that does shift, and there are a lot of communities, I think increasingly, where there are in-person meetups and,
Yes.
even if it's just at cons or right, I mean, that's part of how modern people sort of show what they're into and allegiance is by in these digital spaces, but then running into each other in real life is part of the fun. My daughter is a big K-pop person, and when she sees other people who have the little symbols or whatever, right? That's amazing. But
Yeah.
primarily, it's something that she does online or at concerts. So
Yeah.
right, there's less and less of a distinction, probably.
Yeah. But then also certainly some considerations, especially around like physical safety, for instance,
Yeah.
that have to be taken into account. So yeah, if you know any experts, let me know. I would love to develop that.
I would love to help and with figuring out who the experts are.
Mm.
Well, that's great. I wanted to pivot this conversation a little bit. If there's anything else, well, first of all, is there anything else that you'd like us to know about the DLC leadership program that we haven't talked about?
If you go to dlcleadership.org, you can join the waitlist.
Yeah, it's really easy. I just did it today. They ask you a couple questions,
Yep.
but it's super easy. Well, that's great. I also was looking at your white paper that recently
Just came out. You're on top of it. Yes.
Well, Garrett is also a very great resource, and he's been gathering things for us. And so one of the things, our community is not really a video game based community. It's more about tabletop games. But I do remember that you played Clinical Role. So you know some things about tabletop games too. And so one of the places I think that our interests intersect is this idea that somehow games are bad for kids, which we know is not true. And I am assuming that everyone in our audience right now understands that to some extent. That's why they're here. And a lot of your work has been around video games, but I also think that we come across this in educational settings when we're trying to use games with children, and especially games like Dungeons and Dragons or any kind of role-playing game where there's like sword play and fighting and blowing stuff up, right? And sort of what can you give us some language for the people who are trying to have these conversations with parents or administrators, or just do you have any thoughts about this that you could share for our audience?
Yeah, well, games are play, and play is such a wonderful vehicle for learning and growth and connection. And if we look at the play-based research about how play improves our lives throughout the lifespan, which I think is the most important thing here, we can see that it is like stress relief and learning and the release of endorphins and mood management and all those sorts of things. So I think for me, at least, the biggest hump is that people seem focused on like the thing. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It says dungeons. It's scary. It's video games, and we all know that video games are violent, so that must be
Right.
bad and big and scary. But like at the end of the day, it's play, and play is not just from those ages from 2 to 5 when we're on the floor with the trucks and the blocks. Like it is really important throughout the lifespan, and especially for learning intentional learning and unintentional learning, which I often say the best learning from games comes unintentionally. The conflict resolution or the resource management or the things that the game is not even really developed to help you learn at all, but you're learning it through play.
Right. We call those 21st century skills, right?
Yeah,
And
very good.
yes.
Yes.
And right. And I think that for middle and high schoolers, too, so much of what they're doing is role play all the time,
Yeah,
trying
right?
out, right, different identities and
Yeah.
trying out different ideas. And this is giving them some opportunities to do that in a safe space. And one of the things I pulled out from the interview you did was this idea that context is more
Yeah.
important than content. And
Yeah.
I was thinking that that was really relevant to sort of the intersection of our spaces. And so
Yeah.
for, what can you speak more to that about the idea of
Sure.
context over content?
Yeah, a lot of times the concern is focused on the content, even in those examples I just gave you,
Right.
dragons and violence. And they're not looking at the context about what's happening. Everyone is coming together to learn about X, Y, or Z, historical fiction, playing Civilization. You're coming to learn about history. But what they see is they're looking at a screen. Or are your kids getting along is the example I often give. Why does it matter if they're playing 1 hour or 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon if your kids are getting along and collaborating and cooperating, right? The context matters so much more than just like this arbitrary number that you're putting out into the world. So it's really just about taking a wider lens and looking at the whole picture of what's actually happening here. I think Dungeons and Dragons is such a good example because people are role playing, they're creative thinking, they're doing math. Like there's so many things that are happening when they're playing D&D beyond this idea of like dragons and dungeons.
Right. I think that part of where we get stuck sometimes with people who are not game players themselves is that they don't understand all of these other skills. So I
Correct.
wonder if part of what we need to do better as educators is be able to say what some of the benefits are or
Yes.
reshift it into and not get stuck on defending the content.
For sure. 100%. You're totally right. And I've been asked in interviews a lot of times, like, well, what are the benefits of games? And I tend to give a similar answer every time, which is like critical thinking, flexible thinking, cooperation, coordinate. And like I go off on this list and I'm like, 1 million things. Like I
Right.
couldn't list all the things. But the idea that you're learning through play, I think it is kind of a touch point that people understand. They can really understand that younger kids learn through play, and it's more having the conversation of like that never actually stops, and play is such a good conduit for all of these things.
Well, and I think it's so interesting too. I wonder where we've lost people because those same people who have such a problem sometimes in the educational space with this idea of like gameplay in the classroom are then all into people doing sports, which are
Yeah,
also
isn't that
games,
funny?
right?
Yeah, yes. And they'll be like, well, sports teaches teamwork. Uh-huh.
Right.
Correct. What else does that? Yeah, it's funny. I think just because we've become so attuned to this idea that the opposite of play is work And when you hit a certain age, you should be working, and sports maybe feels more like working, even though sports is also playful. I'm not
Right.
sure.
Right. And that idea of this like semi-structured social space,
Yeah.
I think, right? And if you're not able to get on the soccer team, like where do you have these semi-structured social spaces? And it might be around a game of Fortnite, or it might
Right.
be rolling dice after
Right.
school, or it might be in your classroom. And that's, I think, part of the
Yeah.
research we're trying to do is figure
Yeah.
out sort of what are the things that are key to getting the magic sauce of games
Yeah.
into games in the classroom, because
Yeah.
there's also a lot of terrible like ed tech games out there that aren't educational. And so it's like wading through that is
Yeah.
also,
Games are supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
First and foremost, they have to be fun. Otherwise, they are terrible. Yes.
Christo is saying there's a lot of conflicting conversations around gameplay and understanding how they're all interrelated. And that's, I think, certainly true.
For sure. An example I use too, talking about like how do you get buy-in or kind of like convince people to shift their ideas. During COVID, Animal Crossing came out. My oldest was 6 or 7. I had a 3-year-old as well. And I'm convinced it taught them to read because there was no voice acting and they
Yes.
had to read to know what was happening. And often people are surprised by that. They're like, what do you mean it taught them to read? Like,
Right.
they were having fun. They wanted to play. They were super engaged. And they also learned about capitalism, so there's that.
Well, and at that same time, I was teaching in remotely or semi-remotely.
Yeah.
And my students, who were all 13 and 14, were all playing Among Us.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I just think about how Among Us was sort of like the social lifeline of my students for a while, between just trying to do the thinking of it and then the socialization, and suddenly being away from their friends and trying to figure out like how to be together in a digital space.
Among Us is great.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
But again, those are those kinds of social deduction games, and we can probably do some of the similar things, even if we had to like take out the murdering content. But the murdering's part of the fun. It's not real murdering.
I also have a YouTube channel among the things that I do, and I have a video on Among Us, and there's a line in it where I say, murdering your friends in space is fun, and then I'm kind of like, they consent to it, okay? They consent to the murdering. It's not how it sounds in that soundbite.
Well, it's so interesting too, right? Because we're very clear. Like, you can watch a movie and know that didn't happen to you.
Yeah.
And you can play a game and know that didn't actually happen to you. You did not, if you play Monopoly, you did not become a real estate magnate.
Right.
A terrible real estate magnate from oldie timey times. Like, yeah, so that's really, I think it's really interesting. And I wonder if part of our responsibility as educators, just thinking through what you've said, is sort of trying to change the frame of the conversation when people have these knee-jerk reactions to games.
I think you said it so well a few minutes ago, like, stop focusing on defending the content and really try to bring it out. Like the white paper, it just got released this week at Games for Change, and it talks about essentially what games are and what they aren't, and it's focused on digital games. You could say the same thing about analog games. And it is about changing the frame. So it's like, we're okay to have questions. For sure, we can worry. Absolutely. I worry about literally everything my children do all the time, pretty much. But there's some things we don't need to be worried about. And there's actually some things we're really missing by worrying about it. Like, for instance, the benefits of Dungeons and Dragons. My oldest child's been playing Dungeons and Dragons for like 3 or 4 years, and it completely changed their confidence, their self-esteem, the way they walk in the world. Like it's like night and day. And you know this from experience, but it's like the role playing of the uncomfortableness bleeds into your ability to interact with the world in other ways. And it's pretty magical and special. And you'll miss that if you're focused on the fact that you have these just preconceived ideas about what it is.
Right. That someone has a sword, a pretend sword.
Yes.
Right.
They can instead have pretend magic. How about that?
Right. Only for A very gentle pretend magic.
Yes.
But right, but some of that conflict is part of it too, and
Yes.
it's right. Some of those very people who want to sort of disallow video games or this sort of pretend magic also let their children watch movies or the news.
Or which is even worse.
Uh,
For sure.
yeah, and I was interested in what the white paper said and what you were talking about how much negative information there is about
Yeah.
video games out there, and I do think it's like when people are afraid of flying because when a plane crashes so rarely, it makes
Yeah.
the national news, so it feels
Yeah.
like their planes just falling out of the sky, but really it's
Yeah.
very rare,
Yeah.
right? And they're less afraid of being in a car, even though car crashes happen all the time because those aren't in the
Yes.
news.
Right.
And it seems like that's kind of similar to what's happening with video games sometimes, right?
Yeah.
These big when you've got people who are already sort of suffering with their mental health and then video games come into it or Satanic Panic, Dungeons and Dragons stuff,
Yeah.
then somehow it becomes about the game and not about the more complex issues of mental health or
Yeah. I mean, we're
how rare
primed
it
to pay
is.
attention to these bad news stories, and games are just like people's favorite scapegoat. I say people's, the people who write the headlines, their favorite scapegoat. There's an example, and I don't want to say who it was because I can't remember exactly, but there was a mass shooting at some point in the last 10 years, and usually the headline is they played video games. Oh my God! But in this particular instance, like 3 months later, when they actually dug into it, like they did play video games, but they really liked Dance Dance Revolution. Right. But,
Right.
the headline is they played games. You might as well say they wear shoes. Everybody's
Right.
playing games at some point, and it's not, first of all, it's not related. Games don't fundamentally change our behavior. But second of all, if it said man plays Dance Dance Revolution, people wouldn't have even thought twice about it. So
Right.
it's a really hard uphill battle for people like us because we're battling a biased information ecosystem, which I don't think we can change in and of ourselves. But our bottom up advocacy, our grassroots advocacy for a more balanced conversation about what we know from the research, we just got to keep pushing at it.
Well, I also think that time is kind of on our side because ultimately parents now grew up, the majority of them are from the 90s.
Yeah.
Or 2000s, right? The parents of my students are my age and younger. And
Yeah.
so many of them we're getting to the age where parents started to grow up. Maybe they just had like Mario or something, but they had
Right.
something. And so there's so many more gamers out there, I think, that
Right.
are growing little gamers versus that sort of disconnect from the generation before that just never experienced it.
Fingers
So
crossed.
yeah, hopefully, right? Hopefully time is partially gonna solve it
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
But that's really great. So what are you up to next?
What am I up to next? So DLC Leadership Program will have his first public cohort in September, which is exciting. So gearing up for that and also making, new content for it, which we're going to film next year. Let me think. Am I doing any travel? I'm going to the Thriving in Games Summit in Finland in September. If anyone is familiar with the Thriving in Games group, they create a lot of resources for the gaming industry about how to create games with well-being at the center, or thriving communities, I think is the word they would use. So I'll be doing that, and then maybe taking a day off. Maybe. I mean, it's summer. I feel like I should have one or two.
At least a couple, yeah.
We'll see. Maybe
Chasing around kids, doing all that stuff.
I got lots
Maybe
of
playing
kids.
some Animal Crossing or something else.
Maybe what's on my backlog that's a little embarrassing, but I'll admit it here, is I haven't played Expedition 33 yet, and I'm a big role-playing game kind of girl, so I would love to put that on the list.
Oh, that's really fun. Well, I hope that you get to do some of those things.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if we have any questions in the chat that we want to ask Rachel.
Feel free. I do see a comment, unfamiliarity leads to fear and trying to control it. Yes, absolutely. Which is why I often tell parents, play with your kids, even if you don't want to, because you'll have firsthand experience of what they're engaging with. And if nothing else, knowledge is power, and being more familiar with it will reduce your fear inherently.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I thought that that was really, it's just such a smart thing to say, right? This idea of that you can you can go to your kid's soccer game for hours.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
if you can do that, then you can sit down for 5 minutes. I mean, the amount of times that my own children have come and like info dumped on me about like Balloons TD6 or
Yeah,
Cookie Run Kingdom. And that's what they're thinking about, right? That's
totally.
what's in their inner world, and just sort of choosing to be part of it instead of seeing it as a barrier is such a
Absolutely.
wonderful shift.
Yes, and I mean, and it's hard, and I get it. My kids are super into Fortnite right now, which is fine. Do I need to see what's new on the store every 3 days? No. Do I know what's on the store right now? Yes. Because they
Right.
want to show me and tell me, and I give them 5 minutes, and I'm like, please play the game and stop looking at the store. Um, but if I can do it, you can do it too.
Right. Yeah. In the chat here, they're talking a little bit about how, well, some people want you to go play video games right now. Expedition 33 right
Soon.
now.
Soon.
Soon. So soon. Right. Riling people up to sort of these sort of moral panic
Yes.
questions are
Yeah.
like high energy, easy targets, right? Everybody has an opinion about, but they're not substantive in terms of,
Correct.
like, people can't make change. They can just sort of worry about it for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's a way to sort of take up a lot of, make a lot of noise in a space.
And it gives you the illusion of control, with
Right.
illusion being the key word. Like it's a lot easier to say it was that one thing that I can now take away than try to consider the big picture of what's contributing to it.
So, I don't know how to answer this in a couple minutes, but how can researchers rigorously evaluate psychological effects of tabletop role-playing games such as belonging, identity exploration, emotional regulation, and well-being?
How can they?
While distinguishing genuine outcomes from
Mm.
self-selection, group dynamics, and the influence of the game facilitator?
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, it sounds like you want to do an experimental study, but the work of Megan Connell, she has a wonderful book,
Yep.
which name I can't remember now, but you can Google her and you'll find it. It was published by Routledge, about therapeutic use of tabletop games. And it's full of research and resources that have attempted to do just that. I mean, the short answer would be that sounds like a series of many studies and
Right.
or some kind of experimental intervention or manipulation. So, but I would highly recommend Megan Connell's work in that space. And also, Jared and Elizabeth Kilmer have a wonderful book that now I'm going to Google it. Hold on. That is also good. Jared and Elizabeth Kilmer. Oh, that's not it. Book. Find it. There we go. Therapeutically applied role-playing games. Elizabeth Kilmer, Adam Davis, Jared Kilmer, and Adam Johns. That would also be a good book. And it's
It is.
It is. See, Maryanne says yes.
It's a great one. So it's true. Tabletop.
No, not that one. Not that
therapy,
one.
A guide for the clinician game master.
Oh,
is
yes,
Megan's.
that one. Yeah, that's Megan's. And then
Yeah.
the other one is therapeutically applied role-playing games, the game to grow method. That's the other one.
Yes, that's really great. And I think it's always going to be a little squishy, is my sense, because there is value to having squishier research. Like everything doesn't have to be just numbers.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so because, for example, in education, a lot of times we're trying to measure motivation, but you can't measure motivation because you can't go. So you have to measure engagement. Right. What are people doing as a substitute for what we believe that they might be feeling? Right. What is the quality of that engagement and things like that? So there's it doesn't all have to be quantitative, I guess, or it's not going to be, because it can't be.
Right. Qualitative is, its own dimension of measurement, for sure.
Right. And which is, I think, part of why we're all here, right? Because qualitatively games, like our audience is here right now and we're here speaking to each other because qualitatively games have made our lives better in some way, or we wouldn't care about this.
Right.
Right.
For sure.
And so I think that's another, I mean, this is my own little soapbox, but I think that's another thing that we have to be careful of is it doesn't always just have to be numbers. It doesn't always just have to be right. When you said, 98% of people said they'd recommend it and 85% said it made their lives better for this DLC.
Yeah.
Right, that's still their opinion. And and that's what makes it valuable. Right? It's not just about numbers. So
yes.
So I would encourage people not to box themselves entirely in with just quantitative research.
That is for sure.
I notice Garrett has joined us back in, and that tells me that we are probably about finished. Is that
true? We're about the man. I just swished the curtain back, and here I'm still here. And what a delightful conversation! Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel, and sharing your amazing work. Yeah, of course. We'd like to have you back at some point. I'm sure you're going to be doing this sort of work for a long time, and we hope to be as well. I know Maryanne and I both plopped our name on that wait list for the DLC program.
For sure.
I know a lot of our community has as well. They all have, many of them are leaders in their own respect with applied TTRPGs. So this is just great stuff. And I guess Michael, can I ask a question before we let you go?
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and this is sort of like how the sausage was made question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was like the biggest piece that let you build this program? Like, how do you think you landed some of these big partners and sponsors?
It's a good question. I've been working in games for my entire career, and I haven't stopped advocating for the social layer. And I think that studios are coming on because they are aware that this is a need and they're aware of the power of their community. But it hasn't necessarily been something prioritized because, games are games at their core, and the social layer is kind of tangential to it, to be honest. But as games grow bigger and these communities grow bigger and they become more global and more ubiquitous and more accessible, we can no longer not prioritize how we are addressing our leadership in this space. So I think it was really a right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah. Wonderful. No, this is the now, and it seems like the trends are, this is only going to be a growing part of our society moving forward.
Right. I mean, looking at this, I was like, yes. I can't believe nobody's done this before. Yes, this is exactly what needs to be happening.
Because of money. And I'm so grateful to Shine a Light Gaming, who came in and was like, we see it and let's do it. And it only takes one to open the door for everyone else. And so, yeah.
That one is also you. So good job. The pair of you. So good job. And it's amazing. I'm glad this is existing in our space.
Thank you.
No, incredible leadership. And it's the kind of, the fact that you're doing it, you're making it free for people. Like that is going to make, and already is making a great deal of change. And so, we're really impressed and inspired by that. So we love shining light on that kind of thing. So.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, great. Well, folks, thanks for joining us for Fellowship Friday. We'll be back. Next week is a little different. We'll be live streaming my keynote at the 10th annual Colloquium on Roleplay Game Studies with Dr. Christo and many others. And so tune in for that. And we're going to be playing some more Polymorph in the channel. Last night we played Business Wizards, and we need to schedule a little Nancy Druid. So if you're interested in playing some Polymorph, fantastic, super ultralight, rules light TTRPG, jump on in. You can play in just a second. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the Discord. Rachel, Maryanne, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. This is really fun. Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
You too.